Welcome to Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. My name is Julie, and today we're bringing you a special installment in our new series called Art and Healing. And today we are with one of our own employee artists. And this is Allie, who is the manager of our Asheville, North Carolina store. She has kind of an incredible story, and I'm very happy that she's willing to share it. It takes a lot of guts to come here and do this, and so we appreciate it. But I think there is a lot to be learned from the experience of others, and where they have come on their journey, and so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to thank you.
Yeah.
You know, because these aren't easy. I guess we'll just get into it. We're really talking about how art can be a healing, medicinal kind of therapeutic factor in your life. And I think that you've got some really, really valid like direct line experiences, buddy. You know, there's no like gray area or, you know, anything in there about that. I mean, granted, when we were talking in our prior video, in our Art Speak video, you were talking about how you had, you know, art related experience through your theater and stuff like that. So it wasn't completely and totally new to you, but in, you know, a fine art context, coming to Cheap Joe's was
totally new.
Yeah.
Totally new.
Yeah. When you started with, you know, Cheap Joe's and art in this context, where were you at in your life? Like, what had been going on up to that point? Okay. And then that brought you into this?
So, I was working for a company for about 6 years. I started when I was in college. And then my senior year, I think is really when all my like problems began. I kept a full-time job working for big corporate on top of having an internship, which was super stressful because I had a manager who basically told me that my personality was awful, almost every day. Oh. She was like, just so you know, people aren't going to like you. I don't. And I'm like, okay. And still participating in school, plus being a full-time student. But after I graduated, I started into the management program for the company that I was going for. And it was very stressful, you know. It's a different realm of corporate because they like harp that you do this and you have to do this and you need to follow these rules and you have to meet these numbers and I need you to do this in Excel. And, you know, I ended up taking work home with me. So I've always been a little bit of a partier, but it got kind of worse after that. You know, it basically, instead of going out to have a good time, it just became like I need to go out to numb and like get over the day and not think about it. And so, of course, I wasn't thinking how that's a negative thing until I started working at Cheap Joe's. Like, I quit my job and I went down this terrible spiraling path of drinking and I partied all the time. I ended up losing my roommate. You know, we didn't speak for about a couple of years because I like went off the deep end a little too hard. And when I started working at Cheap Joe's, I got to learn about art supplies. And, you know, then it just became this thing. I'm already ADD, you know, and so it was like, ooh, look at these colors, look at the sparkle, look at the shimmer, look at these brush strokes, you know, and so my direction shifted. So rather than going out all the time, I was like, no, I'm going to stay home and like watch some YouTube videos and like experiment with some stuff. And my old boss actually sent me home with art supplies. And so it became a thing that I like eventually cut out going out a bunch. And then I just took over my kitchen and started to paint in there all the time. But yeah, like drinking got to be a little excessive, you know, where you have moments of blackout periods. And as I learned in painting, I don't have those moments. Like I do enter a state of euphoria while I'm painting, which is always fun. You know, like when you start to get really in the zone and you start to feel really proud and happy of what you're doing, as opposed to before, I would reach that point in alcohol, but then I would forget what I was doing or where I was, or, you know, I wouldn't know until the next morning when someone's like, hey, can we talk about last night? And I'm like, what did I do? Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, I mean, I guess that was like the first place, is trying to find a different way to channel my energy into not drinking.
I get that. I mean, I never was a drinker, but I grew up in an alcoholic family.
Yeah.
And my household was entirely driven by alcohol. So that was never a road that I went down, but I do have the problem with obsessive thought.
Yep.
Like you're talking about with ADD. I mean, I will just chew on something till it's a dead piece of gum, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only two things for me that ever turn it off are loud music that I like and art.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that will stop it, you know, so that I can have some other thoughts,
Yeah.
you know.
I hit that point too. I definitely like cut down on the drinking, and then it got a little worse for a while because I stopped doing other stuff. I had like a lot of life changes happen very abruptly. Like I had to move out of my apartment. My fiance had left me. Like it was a big spiraling effect. And so it got a little worse. And then I moved out, lived on my own apartment, you know, and then you're like, all right, accountability, you know, like you're an adult. You can't be doing this. You have a dog, you have a cat, like you need to learn how to control yourself. And then I joined a couple of programs, you know, and that really helped, I think, me find reasons as to why I started to do it, rather than just say it's in my blood because I'm Puerto Rican, I'm supposed to be drunk all the time. That's not true. You know, and finding like a core supportive group was also an interesting thing. Like artists are actually, oddly enough, all in the same boat, you know, so a lot of them have a little bit more empathy when you talk about like what you're going through, and, you know, they help you like find a way to like really channel that into art versus being like, cool, you want another shot?
Yeah.
You know, like that's not fun.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think by and large, you will find that artists are some of the most sympathetic people on the planet.
We all have our problems.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
But also, I think that the artistic process comes with a constant IV of rejection and negativity.
Yeah.
And so unless you can put on that rubber suit and power through no matter what anybody says about it, then you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
And just the charge that you get, like the recharge that you get just from making art, is what keeps you going. You know,
it's kind of funny you bring that up because I remember working at my big corporate job and like having to fake it all the time. It's really draining to like put on a happy face and like pretend to be happy and love where you're at and all these people. And I think that also like put a toll on me, is like it just drained my energy and my spirit. So it's like, well, I might as well just go out and drink and like loosen up and be like, let's play darts and dance, you know, just to not, I don't know, I guess just recover from the day.
It's so funny, though, that we have that kind of commonality, because my job right before Cheap Joe's was a big corporate job where I was a zone manager over a specific section of the store, but for like several locations. And I was constantly traveling to all these stores. And even though I was dealing with art material and art related stuff, it's not the same, you know, like, you know, there's only so many silk flowers I could care about, you know, and when you're doing that 70 and 80 hours a week to the detriment of anything else that's going on in your life, you start to hate everything about it. You know, you're just like, don't care, whatever, you know, here's a 6 foot run of figurines, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that. I mean, it makes you bitter,
salty.
Yeah,
for sure.
before your time.
Yeah.
You just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, I learned that the longer I stayed in something I loved the most, it became the thing I hated the most, you know? And when I noticed like that was happening with theater, because, you know, everyone there drank from time to time and like having to deal with that, it just, I don't know, I guess I was like, no, there's got to be a way to shift this and change this, because if I love it so much, I don't want it to become the thing I hate the most. So I'm kind of happy I found art, because it's just another way to like let loose. And we had talked about before painting for other people versus painting for yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would paint for other people because I used to do art shows all the time in Charlotte. And all the money that I earned from that went to drinking. Like I would specifically sell, like create stuff so I could make money and then be like, let's go out, let's party, I'm buying shots, you know? And I never saved anything because I ended up just spending it all, you know, and then waking up and like, what happened? And then after a while I was like, you know, I'm going to stop doing that and I'm going to start painting things I like. Because when people would ask me about the art, I'd be like, I don't know, I just made it. Like, do you want to buy it?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you should just buy it so I can go out tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the art that I make for Cheap Joe's is specific in that it has specific purposes and stuff like that. And it's funny because just now, here lately, I'm just now starting to get back into like making more like real stuff for myself, and it feels different. It has a very different feel.
Yeah.
Than like. Then having, whether it's a commission or whether it's some kind of specific assignment, or maybe you're working on a group project with a set of artists or something like that, it's just very different when you're just kind of like, you know, no, I want to do this. This is what I'm doing. I don't care if I sell it. I don't care if I keep it. I don't care if I put it in a drawer.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. This just has a different energy.
Yeah.
You know.
Getting sober and then painting was weird because I would always paint messed up, you know? So that's a thing, is I would always be like super inebriated when I painted. And so I would make some weird stuff, but that's, you know, and then I would start to channel what people would buy, and that's what I would sell. And then
did you find that characteristically they were completely visually different?
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually how I got into like the demo stuff, like how to demo, all the layering and things, all that came after getting sober. Like learning a process of steps and doing what I wanted to do that made sense to my brain, but like, you know, was visually appealing to me, but at the same time, it channeled like a whole other side. Like I would let all of the anger or stress like out, but I would be proud about it. As opposed to before, it was just like throwing crap on a canvas and being like, this is art, you know, but still not necessarily like finding value or appreciating in it. And I appreciate all the stuff I've created and the people that bought it, you know, but at the same time, the stuff that I hated the most is what sold, and the stuff that I love is the stuff that doesn't sell. But it also is like a reflection of whatever I was feeling in the moment, or, you know, the life changes I was going through, or like, you know, the stress. And I feel like in color choice, paint strokes, like all of that is definitely represented in what I've painted.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. Not a lot of people know that. I would be like super schwasted painting art.
You don't even understand how low functioning I would be.
Yeah.
Because like I have the worst metabolism in the world. I'd just be like, you know,
and me, I'm like, I'm raging.
You know, I'm like the one glass of sweet white wine and then on the couch asleep person.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Like I'm so not fun in a party environment. I'm kind of like, yeah, well.
I was like, let's put on the Snoop Dogg radio. Let's like go to town on some paint.
I'm like, who needs a ride home?
Yeah. Way to be, Mom.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you grew up like I did, and you're kind of like, okay, people need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, so. Okay, so when did the shift happen? So what kind of time frame are we talking about? Like,
depends on which time of getting sober you want to talk about.
So what one feels like the one to you?
Probably the one right before I moved here to Asheville. I, for like the third time, attempted to get sober. But I was consistent this time. You know, all the other ones I would like lie to myself. You know, I'd be sober for a little while, but it's like, no, it's okay. I could go do a little bit and like not feel anything. And then joining a group, I might cry a little. Sorry.
Hey.
You like learn the most about yourself. And I want to say I did that like right before I moved here. I gave up everything like super cold turkey. And it was all about like finding who you are as a person and accepting that. And I want to say that's really where the big shift happened. And that's where you see all the stuff I demo. Mm-hmm. It all happened right before I moved here. So it's like like 6 years I've been sober now. I had surgery. I had an accident. You were here for that. I had back surgery.
I was here the day before that.
Yeah. I'm going to wipe my face with my sweater real quick and be like super attractive. I didn't expect to get emotional.
It happens.
Yeah. I had back surgery 7 years ago. I was actually in Asheville when I had a herniated disc that ruptured. And that actually brought me back into drinking. It made it like way worse because you begin to feel like down and out. Like there's nothing you can do that would make it better. You know, trying to find the positive was really hard.
Yeah.
And so I stopped doing art for like almost 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. I actually dated a guy who was a bartender, and we would have like a $250 like tab like almost every weekend. So it became a pretty unhealthy thing. And that's when I joined this program, and I met, you know, a bunch of people who were super supportive and would help me find stuff. And one of them was an artist. And she was like, dude, let's hang out. Let's try something. And I was like, I work for an art store. Did you not know that? Okay, so yeah, let's do this together. And we got super close, and I would paint stuff with them. I actually introduced art to other people in my support group, which was really, you know, awesome for me because then it brought like this new light back. Mm-hmm. And so I started getting back into it, and up until 2.5 years ago, I was pretty consistent with it. And then I had a car accident, broke both my legs. But I chose to not get down and out about it.
Yeah, you did.
I chose to stay like super positive. Like I am completely bionic. I have metal all over, and nothing's gonna change that. So I just have to make the best of it, which is how I got into doing the Legos. Mm-hmm. And then slowly getting back into art, you know, moving to Asheville, having new employees, being able to teach them kind of like really sparked something in me. But it took 2 years after my accident before I even started painting again. Mm-hmm. It was almost like a roadblock. But I'm glad I didn't go down the path of being like, I'm going to get boozy again. I'm going to just like have a different medium, mm-hmm. a totally different outlet, you know? And that's what Lego did. And so I hope that answered your question. I don't know. Yeah. I got real sappy.
No, that's not sappy at all. I mean, I know that I had a completely new and different appreciation for you on 2 different occasions. Was when I had my first back issue, which paled in comparison to the kind of the garbage, like the giant mountainous trash heap that you had already waded through a couple of times. And then I got a little taste compared to what you went through, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, you know, and how consciously you had to, if you had the benefit of sleep, wake up the next day, because sometimes you don't a lot. Yeah. And then make the conscious decision to not be a big sniveling pile. Yeah. And get up and do your thing, even if you are one leg in it, you know, and do that, you know. And then also having to put on a happy face when you feel like you're going to puke from pain, you know, is, you know, a thing. You know, and then I was like, I wonder how many days Allie felt like this, because this sucks. Yeah. You know, like, sucks. Yeah, I remember I had a demo here one day, and I was just like, can I just have a chair waiting on me when I get here?
Absolutely.
And I just remember just being like, you know, when you're in that kind of pain cloud where like some sound comes in, but like not all of it. And so you feel like disconnected from what's going on because you just, like you can't, you know? And I was just like, holy crap, like, how do you do this? Like, how do you do this long term? And like, does it ever stop, you know? And then when the accident happened, I was just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
That accident was obviously totally random, like shouldn't have happened, but it did. And it taught me a lot about patience. Like I already thought going through a program and being sober would teach me about patience. It's a whole other level, you know?
Yeah.
It was more about how to be patient with myself rather than be patient with others. You know, like I could get thrown off the deep end like pretty quickly. You know, the anger and stress like builds and then I'm like, come on people, what are you doing? But to allow my bones to heal. So like, don't try to lift yourself up. Don't try to put weight on your legs. And you're like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so it became, I'm really thankful for the physical therapists that I had because I would explain to them what I'm feeling, you know, and that's the other side of it is like, you have to be humble enough to be like, hey, I need you to like talk to me like I'm 5, you know, like how am I supposed to put a shirt on or how am I supposed to put my pants on? I know this sounds weird, but I have to basically come back down and learn how to walk from the very start, you know, like all those things. And so it became like a challenge within myself to be patient and say, okay, Allie, you know, like, I know you really want to like walk to the bathroom, but you're going to have to use your hands and scoot yourself off the bed and get in this wheelchair. So it should only be like a 2-minute process. It's like 20. It's like, hold on, you know? But at the same time, it's like, I know you really want that popcorn. You're going to have to ask for help and somebody doing it rather than like break your foot trying to do it again. Yeah, so a lot of it's just like being patient within myself and allowing my bones to heal. And my doctors at least told me that they could tell I was being very patient because everything healed back together properly rather than there being some like weird shift or like extra break. Yeah, that was definitely the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then being bedridden. You can't paint while you're laying in bed.
No.
And I know artists can. I just like can't do it because I'm such a high energy person. So I was really happy to like play with Legos because I would just lay them all out on the bed. And I'm like, cool, what are we doing? How do I grab that?
Well, and you know, I think we're similar in that way where we're doing stuff,
I gotta
we're
be
moving,
moving.
blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And then I remember when they told me I needed to be on 10 days of bed rest, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be great. Like people are gonna have to wait on me and I'm gonna get to like chill for a little bit. No. Like the third day.
You're like, I'm over this.
I was crying in bed. I was like, I can't do.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. And then I had one of those humbling moments where there was a miscommunication about being there to help me because I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't get up or take care of myself and nobody showed. And so I had to pee really bad, you know, and I was just like laying there crying going,
what do I do?
Oh no. This is foreshadowing. You know, go now.
The sky is gonna
I'm
fall
alone.
soon. Yeah. I totally get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Having to ask for help is probably one of the hardest things. Like,
well,
in recovery.
Yeah, and then being really, really sure you need it.
Yeah.
Like, because it's different when you're like, oh, I had the flu, and
Yeah.
you know,
I'm a big baby.
Yeah.
Give me some soup.
Yeah, somebody bring me Gatorade.
But this one's like, hey, I pooped in a bucket. Can you help me? I don't know what to do.
Did you, I mean, I know I went through this, but I wonder if other people had this experience, but I know when I was like really, really bad off, I mean, I was sketching over my head because it was the only thing that would turn off the pain.
Yeah.
I mean, and even if you drop your sketchbook in your face, it's okay.
Yeah, it was cool. I actually kind of did that in the hospital. You know, my mom stayed with me for a while, and she would like hold up stuff so I could like doodle up in the air. We had watched the Frida movie, and so she was like, "You want to try some of this?" And I'm like, "Sure." No, I don't do this, but that's fun. Yeah, I mean, I people from Cheap Joe's sent me some watercolors, and so it was really fun for me to actually try some new product. Like Lori had sent me some stuff, and so did Amanda, and a lot of it was like new products to dabble with. I did sketch in these tiny little books that a customer made for me, which was really fun. Yeah. But a lot of it, I built a lot more, mostly in rehab. You know, like I lived in this old folks home for like a month and a half, like laid up in bed, and I needed something.
Well, that's a downshift from party, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the part of being patient. Also, is like you have to learn how to adjust yourself because it's not what I want to do, but it's what I have to do.
Yeah.
And that is also a very like tricky experience. Having your life limited and only doing so much. You're like, okay, that's why I think I eventually had to figure out how to find the best and survive rather than like let it bring me down, because it's all gonna work out in the end. Like I'll find some kind of something out of it. It'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is basically the whole thing in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.